Hi, Janine.
I am incredibly excited to talk about a couple of things that are incredibly passionate and close to my heart. Obviously, we're talking about International Women's Day and celebrating the role that women play across the world. Incredibly proud to work for the Uniting Church. It's a beautiful organisation that is slightly different, and for me, I think the most incredible difference is its inclusiveness and the empowerment of women as well. And you only need to look around the table. And why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? So I'm Janine Jackson. I'm the National Director for Frontier Services.
I'm Colleen Geyer. I'm the General Secretary for the Assembly.
I'm Claire Wendell. I am the National Director for Uniting Care Australia.
And I'm Sareka Gorringe, the National Director for Uniting World.
And these incredible women are women that I get to work with and all have, I think, a fairly important role in terms of the difference that the church is making across the country and internationally to leave the world in a better place. So, Colleen, maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about how the church was formed and when it was formed, about how it was actually done to be inclusive.
Thanks, Janine, and it's just great to be with everyone. We haven't seen each other for ages, so to be in the same place is really great. The Uniting Church began in 1977 with three churches coming together to form the Uniting Church. When it began, it had women could be ordained at that time and could be in leadership. Although only one of the national leaders at that time was a woman. That was the moderator of New South Wales Synod, Lillian Wells. But at the time, the church, when it started, did see that women being part of the church's work was important. And at the beginning, even had a quota on its committees. I think it was for a third had to be women. And interestingly, while we don't have that anymore, you'll see right across our church that in committees and boards, etc., we really do look for gender balance and recognise the importance of having both women and men as part of our decision-making bodies. Of course, women can also hold any position in the church and have. The other thing I think we really try hard at, and I'm very proud about, is that where we can and really to intentionally mentor up-and-coming next-generation leaders as well, and to see what's possible for them into the future. That kind of balance and that understanding about what we all bring to the church is so important as we look to the future.
Oh, absolutely.
That's really interesting. No, I was just reflecting on that, Colleen, because as you know from my board meeting, this year is my 30-year anniversary in working as a woman within the Uniting Church.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Congratulations!
And most of that time has been in leadership roles. In fact, only 1 year of that was not in a leadership role. And so I kind of reflect on my own journey of the 44 years. I've done 30 of those in the church. So I've seen a bit of change. Yeah. But always I've had women championing me in my journey. So of course I started off when I was like 2, obviously. But I've always had women championing me and supporting me in that, and I've seen that. I think what I've seen in that time is a real strengthening of women in leadership as well. I think there was some, it hasn't always been rosy. No. We're not painting a picture that it's all fabulous for every woman, but also I think I've seen that really grow. So we have a president-elect.
Yes,
there's a woman.
That's right.
There's the 4 of us in leadership in the Assembly. So and across our community services, there are many women in leadership, and of course. So.
That's so important, isn't it? That championing, being championed, or being mentored, or being told, or even oriented to what you find yourself in, so that you can understand that. And I think as leaders too, we should look for what are the opportunities that we have to do that
to
for
encourage
emerging
other
leaders.
young women. Yeah,
absolutely.
For me personally, for my journey, it's The Uniting Church's commitment and support to women in leadership is actually part of the Uniting Church's commitment to not being a place where everybody thinks the same.
Yes.
A genuine commitment to diversity and encouraging different voices and holding multiple views, so we don't become a bubble or a silo.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, is a powerfully attractive place. And so that you can always expect to encounter in a meeting a radically different point of view to one you might have encountered previously. So you're constantly learning and growing. And I think women are a really important part of setting that culture.
Yeah.
I think that women bring, I guess we don't have that cultural baggage of privilege that assumes that our point of view is always the right one. So that openness to saying, oh gosh, haven't thought of that before.
Yeah.
Let's do it like that. Is lovely.
Yeah, that's true.
This actually goes to prove exactly why it's so beautiful. Cleon, I just wanted to pick up a little bit on the point that you were making earlier, and talk about some of the incredible stuff that Uniting Care does for gender equality and inclusiveness, even as an organisation, and some of the stuff that's actually happening from a national perspective and the impact it's actually having for and with women, not just from a leadership perspective.
So I suppose from two ways. There's our community services network. So the service delivery we do on behalf of the church across the country is huge. We're the largest network of community services. So the Uniting Church should be very proud of the footprint that we've got. 50,000 staff, 30,000 volunteers. The community services aspects obviously works with women in really disadvantaged circumstances every day. So we deliver services to women who are really if we look at the stats, in the poverty stats, women are overrepresented in homelessness, particularly older women, young women in violence and abuse, domestic violence, poverty in general. Single parents are clearly one of our most disadvantaged groups of people socioeconomically, and that then leads to child poverty. So women are really not doing too well across the country as far as the being overrepresented in areas of disadvantage and vulnerability. So from the community services perspective, we work, we're there with women. We're there with communities every day. We're there doing the work we do, women to women, men to women, really trying to ameliorate the situations that they're in individually and as families and communities. And then from a national perspective, we take all of that experience and then we advocate about the policies and the structural barriers that women face in our community.
But it's such a really important piece that I think a lot of people actually don't understand the difference that the church is actually making for women and with women. So I'm really I'm so grateful that you've shared that. And it is beautiful that we're trying to make it a better place for women as well as include women in that. So thank you so much, Claire. And now that kind of leads me into talking about some of the incredible stuff that Soraka is doing with Uniting World, and the role that you and your teams are playing in the developing countries and the importance of including women in programming and in funding. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
I was just thinking, as I think Clauwen articulated very clearly what the issue around the imbalance of power and privilege between men and women, and obviously that's true universally. It's really interesting because all of us have this mindset about marginalised minority groups, and there are plenty of those. But obviously the big deal is that women are not a minority group. We are half the population. So marginalising half your population, it has a pretty significant impact.
Exactly. When you put it like that, yeah.
So it's interesting because if you look at Uniting World, we're the Uniting Church's international partnerships and aid agency, and we work in primarily Asia and the Pacific, but also a couple of partners in Africa. And we work with our partner churches to work with them on creating basically fighting injustice and poverty in their context. So that's what we do at a high level. And in sort of socioeconomic development, there isn't a magic bullet. There is no one single thing that's going to fix the problem of poverty or inequality. But the closest thing we have to the magic bullet is the empowerment of women and girls. Because honestly, if you've only got one lever you can pull, that's the lever you pull, right? You know, right? I think most people would be aware of the fact that women, because they hold caring responsibilities, nurturing, child rearing, looking after the elderly, because they carry so much of that social responsibility, but then have so little socioeconomic power. Fixing that power imbalance fixes a lot of the other ways in which people are disadvantaged.
So then I guess all of us then thinking about what does happen to communities when you empower women. What do you think? I certainly have worked in a lot of different organisations and corporate organisations, and the one very fundamental difference that I've noticed in having, you look around the table here and there are, 4 women leaders, the difference for me has been around culture. It feels much more heart-led leadership than in other organisations that I've worked with for, but how do you think it actually makes a difference in communities and for organisations?
Well, I think in organisations, I've worked in organisations that are led by both women and men that have been good. But I see in women a willingness to maybe think outside the box sometimes and to try new things, or to think what could happen that's not the same. We don't have to always hold to the same way we did things. Things could be a little different. We can dream what the future might look like that is a bit different, or, just to flip a problem on its head and see what a solution could bring, from a different perspective. And, and I think that's always helpful. Sometimes it's tricky, of course, because an organisation has to be willing to go with you on that. But that perspective, I think, is key. And we do see that with women leaders in organisations, that's for sure as well.
Well, I think one final question. How do we go forward and pave the way for new women coming through? What piece of advice do you think would be helpful for young and emerging leaders or aspiring young women in order for them to feel that they're supported and included? What would be your piece of advice for them?
I had a few little points that I put down on this one.
You go first then.
Well, they were just 4 really.
Yeah.
Listen and learn.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Find your champions.
Yeah.
So seek out those people that will champion you. Be true to yourself.
Definitely.
Always be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And your passion.
Yes.
And never give up.
I can add one. Apparently, men will apply for a job if they meet 10 to 15% of the selection criteria of a job, and women won't apply till they've got over 90.
Right.
So what I would say to young women is, honestly, if you see an opening where you think there's a need and you have an idea of how to fix it, just step up and
just do it.
Just do it. Just do not let there be a leader. I mean, and this is encouragement for leadership. Just go after it.
Yeah.
And obviously, you won't know everything. You won't have everything it takes. But that's what you're good at, is pulling together a group of people who can help you get stuff done, right?
And that's where you
Yeah,
find your
exactly.
champions. So you find
Yeah.
the people
That's right.
around you who are going to support
That's
you.
right. You
and
don't
nurture
have
you
to
and-
know everything. Just step in and then build a coalition that'll help you get the stuff done.
Yeah. I like all that they said,
Yes.
obviously, and agree with it. And so I'd like to just add one thing to
Yeah.
those important things. And it's not advice to emerging leaders, it's advice to us. And, sometimes I think people in organisations and in the church, they get so set in their ways, or they're so comfortable in their positions, they don't kind of look at what's in the future. And so for up and coming women leaders in the church, they might look and go, oh, well, they've been in their roles for how many years, and that's just how it's going to be, and where am I going to find a place? And I think for us as leaders, it's also important for us to go, who's coming?
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
who's got the
Yeah.
passion for
Yeah.
the church for the future, who'll take us where maybe we can't because we have our
Exactly.
ways, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think there is a place for us to think of ourselves in that kind of transition space and to give advice to us to go, is it time for us to step away
Absolutely.
and to let that passion just flow through and just be amazing for us for the future?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So if there are any women, young women leaders out there who want our jobs, just let us know.
Please,
Yes.
you can have it.
And we will embrace
Mentor
you.
you.
We will embrace you.
Absolutely.
Well,
what about you? Jeanette?
I
You got
think,
some advice?
yeah, I think the best piece of advice is be brave, be weird. So embrace your own self. Ask questions. Be vulnerable. The more questions that you ask, the quicker you learn. And for me, I think those are the things that, by remaining authentic to who you actually are a better leader.
Yeah.
Don't try and emulate someone else or emulate others. The closer you can be to your own authentic self, the better a leader you'll actually be. Well, thank you, and thank you so much for talking about International Women's Day and why it's important to all of us. I'm hoping that everyone that's watched this might have taken away something interesting, inspiring, and made them hopefully want to come and work for the Uniting Church.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Janine.
Thanks, Janine.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Christy.